Twin Cities, there's sometimes talk about up north. I'm going up north for the weekend. My friends and I are going up north to the cabin. We have some hunting land up north. When we say this, we're really speaking about the coniferous forests of the Canadian Shield. I made an earlier video on why the North Woods is like this in the first place, but in one word, it would be glaciers. Up here, there's no farmland, so Minnesotans tend to cling to the edges of lakes in resorts or cabins and take in the scenery, wildlife, and escape from city life. There are three main routes from the cities up north: I-35, US Route 169, and Minnesota 65. Every summer, these routes are typically clogged with family-packed minivans and trucks hauling boats every Friday in their northbound lanes and every Sunday for those heading southbound. My route, 169, goes due north up to the city of Grand Rapids, where the highway takes a solid northeast route and follows the Iron Range. Instead of that, I'll be continuing my venture due north on a very special Minnesota Highway, 38, which is known as the Edge of the Wilderness National Scenic Byway. It starts in Grand Rapids and ends at my destination in Effie. You may have passed many scenic byways before. They are special highways that must possess one or more of these 6 intrinsic qualities. Scenic byways must have exceptional archaeological, scenic, historical, natural, cultural, or recreational significance. As of January 2021, there are 184 byways in the program, and there seems to be one in every state but Hawaii and Texas. The U.S. Department of Transportation nominates these roads, and they accept nominations only from states, native tribes, or land management agencies. If they become a National Scenic Byway, they even receive extra funding. This is meant to bring tourism and economic development to less traveled regions of the U.S. that hold these intrinsic characteristics. They're the perfect hotspots for staycations if you're looking for something close with a lot to see. In order to secure this special funding, in addition to the 6 qualities, a corridor management plan must also come with the nomination, where the local community should plan to provide the conservation and enhancement of the byway's qualities, as well as the promotion of tourism and development. Because of this, there are many guides that promote special stops along the edge. I'll include them in the description. Minnesota 38 has several unique historic stops, including a closed Iron Range mine and railroad. There's some ecological stops, such as a bog, trails, scenic overlooks, and discovery and research centers for families to learn about the region. There's also something very unique to this highway, the Laurentian Divide. We'll get into that in a minute. If you're looking for a great highway in northern Minnesota, I'd suggest the Edge of the Wilderness Highway, Minnesota 38.
Making my way up north, loons go splash. Hope I don't crash into a bear. And it smells nice.
If you couldn't tell already, it's great to be on the road again. This highway is one of my favorites in Minnesota to ride. It snakes through the thick, protected forests of the Chippewa National Forest while hugging the lakes that flank it on either side. When it comes to the lakes here, the highway also showcases another unique feature regarding the waters of the region. Halfway up the byway is the Laurentian Divide. This is a continental divide where all the water north of this hill of land flows into the Arctic Ocean, and everything south of it goes into the Atlantic. It's called the Laurentian Divide because it divides the large North American craton of Laurentia. Laurentia is the oldest, most solid part of the North American plate today. It's a chunk of crust that's been stable for over 500 million years. It was once its own continent called Laurentia. This continent was named after the St. Lawrence River, which is the river that drains the Great Lakes into the Atlantic Ocean. The river is named after St. Lawrence of Rome. St. Lawrence, before being canonized, was a deacon preaching Christianity in Rome, at a time when Christianity was still on the rise in the empire. When the Roman government demanded the treasures of the church, he instead distributed them amongst the poor. As punishment, St. Lawrence was placed on a gridiron and burned alive. The legend says that St. Lawrence cheerfully declared, "I'm done on this side, turn me over." Because of this, St. Lawrence is the patron saint of cooks, chefs, and comedians. This was in 258 CE. Almost 1,300 years later, in 1535, the French explorer Jacques Cartier arrived in the river delta of the Great Lakes on the day of the Feast of St. Lawrence and decided to name it the Gulf of St. Lawrence. You'll be hearing more about Cartier later. The river that ran into this gulf was called the St. Lawrence River, and the mountain range north of the river was called the Laurentian Mountains. These mountains are some of the oldest in the world, back from when Europe and North America had been collided in the supercontinent of Rodinia. This large chunk of stable crust has a couple major watersheds, and I'm crossing over into one of them now. Most of the geology and biology will be similar on this trip, as it'll be centered around the same watershed. The way land was divided in North America was usually done this way as well. I have a video in Season 3 about how the Red River Valley, which flows north of the Laurentian Divide, was originally not part of the US. Another earlier video in the same season showed how Oregon country was also separated from the Louisiana Purchase this way. The Purchase included all the rivers that flowed into the Mississippi. This trip is going to travel the Great Lakes region a great deal, so you'll hear about Laurentia or the St. Lawrence River quite a bit. Unfortunately, all that water that drains down the St. Lawrence has to come from somewhere, and I'm about to get caught up in it.